You're absolutely right. Teaching history is not indoctrination. But what is picking and choosing which history you teach and conveniently leaving out parts of the truth. So you want to teach about slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, all of these horrible things that we did as America. But you forget to mention that the Democratic Party is responsible for all of it. You forget to mention that the Republican Party was always actively against those things. You want to teach about slavery, but you don't mention the fact that black people also owned slaves. You forget the fact that white people were also slaves. And then if you do, you want to point out distinctions in the kind of slavery and things like that. You don't mention the transatlantic slave trade, where Africa literally gave us their people for slavery in exchange for goods from Europe. They actively were participants in that. So they actively were helping with slavery. You also forget to mention that slavery actually didn't even start in the US and that many other countries participated in it. And there are still countries now, including countries in Africa, that participate in slavery. The other thing that goes hand in hand with all this is that you guys always forget about the more recent history. So you talk about slavery, but you forget about the fact that this country that is so bad also voted to end it. You talk about Jim Crow, but you forget that this country also voted to end that. You talk about segregation, but you conveniently leave out the fact that we ended all those things. So the country that is so horrible and racist in its history also decided to overturn all of those things. So our more recent history, our more modern history would show a history of anti-racism because of those things. And it's interesting because you guys voted for someone who literally voted for segregation and talked about the fact that he didn't want his kids in a racial jungle. But again, you forget about those things. You voted for someone like Kamala Harris, but you ignored the fact that she is personally responsible for black and brown people in California being in jail for longer sentences and using them past their sentencing for cheap labor. And again, as my friend Tom McDonald said, if America is so terrible and racist, it's probably not safe to encourage immigration. And I mean, you can have your pick at any other country, but how much longer are you going to be making people apologize for a part of history that they were never a part of? Because I don't think they do that in other countries like Germany, for example. Are you going to blame current people in Germany for World War II? Are you going to compare them to Nazis when they haven't done anything? Because most of the current people that are alive in America, and even their past relatives, were never a part of slavery, were never a part of segregation or any of those things. But again, don't forget that you literally voted for a president who was for segregation. So again, make sure you're teaching the whole truth if you're going to teach it.